Hello, today we will continue with our chapter 9 from the book Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. Chapter 9, Justice Done. One of the worst places in London was Jacob's Island. It was surrounded by a muddy ditch which was an inlet of the river Thames, known as Folly's Ditch. Jacob's Island was full of broken down warehouses, which was the haunt of the destitute and the criminal. In a decrepit warehouse on this island huddled Toby Crackit and Tom Chitling. There was also a robber called Cags. They had repaired to this ruin of a place which overlooked Folly's Ditch from the back and Mill's Lane from the front, and which were connected to the island by a wooden bridge, when they had heard of Nancy's murder and Fagin's capture soon after. Their usual haunts were now unsafe, and even though this building was none too strong, at least it had windows and doors that could be barred. They spoke in low voices about Charlie, who had hidden in the chimney with Chitling and thus escaped arrest. Claypole, who had not been able to hide in time and had been taken along with Fagin. Bet had gone to identify Nancy's body and became raving mad. When Fagin was being escorted to prison, people had tried to lynch him, so furious were they at his sight. Suddenly, Bullseye, Sykes' dog, leaped into the room from a window, making them jump. "Now, where did he come from? Is he mighty thirsty?" observed Gags. "He must have run away from him." None of them could mention Sykes by name, and finding no one familiar in the pub or the other houses, came here. The dog was lame, bedraggled, and very weak. He drank the offered water eagerly and curled up in a chair. 3 hours later, night fell and they lit a candle. They heard someone knocking on the door downstairs. 3 men looked at each other fearfully. They knew it wasn't Charlie because the dog was whining. "Why has he come here?" whispered Chitling. "We have to let him in," said Toby. Toby went downstairs and returned with Sykes, who had covered the lower part of his face with a scarf. His hat was jammed low on his head. When he removed both, they saw his sunken eyes and heavy beard. He has a shadow of old Sykes, one who constantly glazed over his shoulder. He placed a chair against the wall and sat down. He asked for news about Fagin. Toby told him, but no one could meet his eyes. "Damn you all," he fumed. "Can't you talk to me? Are you going to give me up or let me hide out till the chase dies out?" "You can stay here," replied Toby. "You are safe with us." Another knock sounded. Toby went downstairs again to admit Charlie's Bates. When he came in, he recoiled at the sight of Sykes. His eyes filled with horror. Sykes got up and took a few steps towards him, his hand outstretched. "Don't you know me, Charlie? Get away from me. Don't you touch me, you monster!" screamed Charlie at the top of his voice. "I don't know what you 3 are going to do, but I am going to give him up when the crowd comes here. Help! The murderer is here. Come and get him. Help!" And with surprising strength, Charlie leaped on Sykes and brought him down. They rolled over together, Charlie unmindful of the blows Sykes rained upon him. Finally, the 3 other men separated them before another murder was done. Sykes thrust Charlie into another room and locked the door. There was a small trapdoor leading to the roof here, and Charlie put his head and shoulder out and yelled that Bill Sykes was in the house. Immediately, a roaring crowd, which had already been attracted by Charlie's yell, came surging across the wooden bridge with a mounted policeman leading the way. Sykes decided to jump out into Folly's Ditch, where the tide was out, and escape into the night. With this intention, he found a stout length of rope and headed for the roof. When he climbed out onto the roof, the crowd spotted him and everyone ran from the front to the back. Sykes tied the rope around the chimney. He made a running noose and passed it over his head. He was going to tie it around his waist and then let himself down into the ditch. His feet would not touch the ground, but he had a knife ready to cut the rope. As he was passing the rope round his neck, he looked over his shoulders. His eyes grew wide with terror. "The eyes! The eyes!" people heard him scream. "Get away from me! Get away!" Sykes lost his footing and stumbled over edge of the roof. The noose tightened around his neck till it taunted and jerked. The murderer hung there, the knife clasped in his hand, and the look of fear frozen in his wide open eyes. A white dog appeared on the roof. It ran backwards and forwards and then took a running jump. Aiming for its master's shoulders, it missed completely and fell into the ditch, smashing its head on a sharp stone. Chapter 10. All's well that ends well. 2 days later, Oliver was in a coach with Rose, Mrs. Smiley, Mrs. Bedwin, and Mr. Lesber. Mr. Brownlow followed in a coach with another man whose identity was kept secret. They were heading to the place where Oliver was born. They passed the workhouse and reached the hotel where they were to stay. Mr. Grimwig, who had arrived there in the morning, welcomed them, and very unlike his ferocious self, not once offered to eat anyone's head. When they were all seated in the room, Mr. Brownlow came in with a man, on seeing whom Oliver jumped up with an exclamation. It was the same man who had bumped into him at the inn. Monks for it was he glared at the boy with hatred, muttering curses under his breath. The story was told partly by Monks and partly by Mr. Brownlow of how Edwin Leaford, Monk's father, had promised the young Agnes Fleming marriage. She had trusted him too far and lost what no woman can get back. Leaford, meanwhile, after telling Agnes and her father that he had an urgent business to attend to and would return very soon, had gone to Italy to claim the fortune left to him by a relative. But unluckily he had taken ill there. Before dying he had written a letter to his friend Mr. Brownlow and to Agnes begging for her forgiveness. He had also written a will leaving £800 apiece to Monks and his mother. The rest he had divided between Agnes and her unborn child. If it were a girl, she was to gain the money on returning 21. If a boy, he would inherit on the condition that he did not sully his name by committing any crime till they attained that age. Mr. Brownlow said Monk's mother burned the original will so that all the money could go to her and her son, but kept a copy, the letter and other evidence. She visited the Flemings and told them of Edwin's death and the lie that he had cheated the girl knowingly. The devastated family left England for Wales, and nothing was known of where they had gone, although I tried my best to find them. Monks said that Agnes' father had died of the shock, and a week later Agnes herself had left the house. Her younger sister, Rose Fleming, a child of 3 at the time, left an orphan. He had been taken in by a poor woodsman. Monk's mother had called on them and told them that Rose's sister was a fallen woman, and so her blood was bad. The couple had abandoned the child. Mrs. Miley, taking pity on Rose, had adopted her. Rose was sobbing stretchedly, shocked at hearing this story. But Mrs. Miley took her in her arms, saying, "You are still my beloved niece, Rose, and I your aunt. Nothing has changed or will change. See, there, who is waiting eagerly to embrace you." Oliver flung himself into Rose's arms, crying, "Not aunt, but sister, dear sister." The letter and other evidence were recovered from a hiding place in Fagin's room, and Oliver was finally bestowed his legacy. Harry Miley married Rose and settled down as a person of a rural church. Mrs. Miley lived with them in a parsonage. Mr. Brownlow moved to a house nearby and adopted Oliver, and not for a minute did he regret his decision. The Bumbles lost their jobs when their nefarious dealing with criminals became public and ended up as paupers in the same workhouse. Noah Claypole and Charlotte became informers, and Charlie Bates decided that the honest life has better and got a job. Near the altar of the old village church where Harry Miley was a parson stood a white marble tablet with the name Agnes carved on it. At times it seemed to the others that the spirit of the young girl hovered around it, loath to leave, because close by lived all those she had loved so dearly in love. The end.